Okay, so we are continuing. We're doing testing for different gases. So essentially there are tests that we can perform to prove the identity of a gas. So let's say we're doing a chemical change and we have gas bubbles that are being produced. We have a way of actually seeing what type of gas is being made. Okay, so there's actually 3 tests that we can do. We can do an oxygen test, we can do a hydrogen test, and we can do a carbon dioxide test. So if you take a look at the Hoffman apparatus YouTube video I linked on our D2L, you'll see the example of hydrogen and oxygen gas tests. But I will be showing you when I return to school what all 3 look like. And then when we go to do our lab later on in this unit, you will be able to do it yourself. So the first one is an oxygen gas test. So we're going to essentially in the test tube where you have your gas being produced, if you put a glowing splint into the gas, so the key here is it has to be glowing. So when you look at the video or when I'm doing this for you tomorrow, you'll see what I mean by that. It's not burning. It's kind of like when you have a candle and you blow the candle out and you can see the little wick is essentially glowing. So the wick itself looks like it's kind of like an orangey color, but it's not on fire. That's what we want to have. So a splint, in case you don't know what a splint is, it's basically almost like a wooden popsicle stick. So it's like a thin piece of wood. So if we put a piece of wood that is glowing, not burning, into the gas, if we have oxygen, the glowing splint should relight. So essentially you should have a flame happening afterwards. If nothing happens, that means you don't have oxygen gas. That means, so it's either yes, we have oxygen, or no, it must be some other type of gas. Our next test, so the hydrogen gas test, you now are going to use a burning splint. So inside the test tube where you have your gas bubbles being produced, you would put a piece of wood, that thin piece of wood, but it has to be on fire. So it's almost like a match that's lit or the candle flame, like it has to have a flame. If you put it into the gas, you should see kind of a burst in the flame. So the flame almost looks like it's getting larger, and you will hear a pop sound, okay? Sometimes this pop is loud, sometimes the pop is on the quieter side. It will depend on how much gas you actually have being produced. So usually if you have a lot of hydrogen gas, this sound will be louder. If you don't have enough hydrogen gas to make the sound, you will still see the burst of the flame. So the flame almost looks like it's kind of enlarging. Obviously, if none of that happens, so the flame did not get larger and you don't hear a pop, so that must mean that we don't have hydrogen gas. It must be some other type of gas. And lastly, we have our carbon dioxide gas test. This one's not as exciting. So if you put it into a test tube, so the splint has to be on fire. If you put it into the test tube and the fire goes out, that means we do have carbon dioxide gas. If you put it in and it stays on fire, no change is seen, then that means you don't have carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so those are the 3 gas tests that you are expected to know. Again, so take a look at the video for the Hoffman apparatus. It will show you 2 out of the 3, but I'm going to show you all 3 of these tomorrow.